Hey everyone, Michelle Seidling here with another episode of Food Experience Unplugged. What do you do when life hands you lemons? You say thank you for the opportunities. Today we'll explore the importance of persevering through challenges in order to conquer your health goals. Here to help us do that is Susan Wheeler, a mindset coach, speaker, and author of The Lemonade Diet: How to Persist, Persevere, and Make Lemonade When Life Hands You Lemons. This podcast is available on multiple platforms, including YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and others, as well as our website at foodexperienceunplugged.com. Please be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform for new content as it becomes available. Please also check out our website at foodexperienceunplugged.com for some free resources as you begin your health journey. Susan Wheeler, welcome to Food Experience Unplugged.
Thank you for having me, Michelle. I'm excited to be here today.
Oh, well, I'm excited to have you here as the lemonade guru. Personally, I love lemonade. I like mine without sugar, but, maybe that's considered lemon water, but it's all good nonetheless.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so funny how when people know me as the lemonade lady, and even I was hiking on the AT the other day and I don't have a trail name. A lot of people that hike on the Appalachian Trail have a trail name. And I ran into a family and all these kids, they told me their trail names. And within conversation after hiking with them for a little while, they called me Lemonade. So that's my
Perfect. That's a perfect trail name. And maybe you have a container of a lemonade you take with you on your hikes. I don't know.
lemon in my water.
Excellent.
I do.
Oh, wonderful. Well, to get started, will you introduce yourself? And you've got a pretty dramatic story, but a story of real perseverance and really making lemonade out of lemons. So will you share that with us and how you got to this point in your life and in your career?
Awesome. Yes. So as we're talking about lemonades, right? Lemon and lemonades right off the fly. I just published a book in March called The Lemonade Diet. And it's a mindset book. So it's not about a lemonade diet because a lot of people are thinking, wow, that would be cool. If I drink lemonade and be healthy and lose weight and reach all my goals. But it's a mindset diet, which is as important as any other diet that we're on. So I wrote this book and I wrote it diligently last year in 2019. It was supposed to be published on April 1st. And as you know, the pandemic came in the middle of March and really shut everything down. And our book tours were canceled. Everything was canceled. So here I was. I wrote a book called The Lemonade Diet: How to Persist and Persevere and Make Lemonade When Life Hands You Lemons. And right out of the gate, life handed me more lemons because this project that took me years of compiling and stories and then a year to write, I I was kind of shut down.
Mm.
So there you have another lemon. And I was able to actually, of course, everything is so virtual right now online and, with Amazon and all the different things we can do. So shifted and made things happen. But it was just so fitting that that would happen to my book. Of all the timing. But my book is really a story of it's stories of my life and things that have happened to me, which would have really taken people out of the game. But for whatever reason, when something would happen, I would take that as an opportunity to figure out another way or get through it. So I'm not one that likes to be told no. You can't have that, you can't do that, you can't be that, you can't become that. So in my life, I had some things happen. I had some serious accidents. I lost some people I loved. I had some illnesses, some injuries. I've had disappointments, heartbreaks. And what I have found is so many people, one incident can take them out of the whole game of life. Just one thing. And when I was sort of, I don't dwell on the things that have happened to me, but sometimes I sit back and think, oh gosh, and any one of those things could have just ended it for me. Not ended my life, but just ended my lust and wanting to do more, be more. And I kept going. And I realized people needed that message. And how I got through different situations the way it worked for me. So a lot of people, I've heard some really great feedback. Some people have read the book and said, this chapter speaks to me. This chapter, I felt like you wrote it for me. I felt like I wrote it. So it's really resonated well. And I'm so glad, despite all the hoops I had to jump through and hard work to get there, I'm just so glad I finally got it out there.
Sure, absolutely. That's amazing how you're able to really bounce back. Now I think on your website you talk a little bit about, you know, one of you go through some of your challenges, but can you kind of help us to really get a feel for what you've gone through? Was there an example of one of the situations that you had to overcome? Will you share that with us?
Sure. I think the first biggest thing in my life that happened was when I was 16, my dad suddenly died and he was 49. So there was absolutely no warning. I was with him that afternoon and I left to go to my part time job. And he was a jokester and he was teasing me about a television show I was watching. We had one little TV in our whole house, so everybody watched it together. And I got upset about it because I was 16. He wasn't being inappropriate or mean or anything. He was just teasing me. And I kind of over the top got upset, slammed out of the house, slammed the door, and I never saw him again. He died while I was at work. And he had a massive heart attack and he died in our home. And as a 16-year-old girl, and I really wasn't mad at him, deep down, it wasn't like we had some tumultuous relationship. It was devastating. So I had to figure out how to be forgiven by someone who wasn't here anymore.
Mm,
So that was really hard. Losing, he was the first real loss of my life. I was a week before my senior year of high school. It was pretty devastating. But I did the work, and I think a lot of times things like that can shape us right there. 16 years old, I could have used that. I could have gone down so many different paths, and I didn't make some of the best choices. I did get married a year later, wanting to sort of recreate the feeling of family and home again because that really tore our family apart. But it wasn't anything, awful or devastating. It just was not the best choice, and I rallied from that as well. That's another story. But what I had to really realize, and I'm lucky I realized it as I was younger and talked to a lot of people, and I realize it now more as a mom of teenagers. Well, I have 4 children. I have 1 teenager left, but raising teenage girls is not pretty. It's not a pretty thing, and I have a great relationship with my girls, but as they were going through, different periods in their teen years, I realized I never once, if they slammed the door, if they said something hateful, I knew it was in passing, that it was just off the cuff, and they always came back. The difference was I didn't have the opportunity to make things right.
mhm.
So that was the hardest thing, but as I see, that's what teenage girls do. They're not nice. They're not always nice, and I know my dad knew that. So, I really have to believe that he just knew, it wasn't the first time that I, was a little ouchy with him. So I really but that was a tough lesson to learn because you don't think that's gonna happen to you.
Mm.
You just don't.
Yeah. Now, in the moment, you can't necessarily see, I guess, the lemonade in the lemons when you're in that moment. Is that
No, you can't, but I look back over my life as a whole, and I think of the paths that I've taken because he died, because if he didn't, my life would have done something different, right? So, I look at my life right now, and I feel like it's not that I would want that to happen, but that's what happened, and that's why I am who I am. So I think we have to learn to just sort of figure things out and not because you can't change that. I couldn't change a thing about it. I couldn't change the fact that he was gone, the way I behaved. So it's going forward, kind of accepting and realizing that your life is taking a different path. I know I'm a better person because of it. I never slam doors, never. And my kids actually are really, really good, and they know this story. And life is so short and precious, and you just don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. So make sure that you're always saying what you need to say and doing the right thing, because you can't. There's not always a do over or an apology. Doesn't always.
Mm. True, true. Now I mean, you've had several other challenges throughout your life. Did it take you many years after those challenges to really see how it shaped you and see how it benefited you?
I think so. When I was younger, I would be a little upset when something didn't happen the right way. And now I rarely even skip a beat. No matter what happens, I just move along, because we can get really stuck in places, and I've seen it. I coach with people who are coaching with me about something completely different, and perhaps they're struggling with a diet. It's never about the food. It's about other things that have led them to that place. So what I realized is, in telling my story, a lot of people can relate. It's like a you know, getting ready to put together a cake. If you don't have all the right ingredients, the cake's not going to come out the way it should. So it's important to not just look at what your end result is going to be, but to look at everything leading up to it and figuring out, am I prepared? Do I have all the right ingredients? And fixing that, getting your shopping list together before you try to do the end product. And that was another reason that I felt it was really important to write my book. My stories are unique maybe to me, but everyone's gone through something I've gone through. There's some my stories will resonate with someone, at least one of them will. And it it just takes one thing to take you out of the game. So, yeah, I don't know if that answered your question or not.
You did, yes. So why do you feel that some people really struggle to see challenges as learning experience?
I think we're wired for ease. We're
Mm,
not wired to do things that are hard or complicated. And when something comes up that was unexpected, we have to figure it out. It's not like blinking or breathing or brushing our teeth. Or I even like to use the analogy, how many times have we gotten in our car and driven somewhere and don't even remember going there, right? We know we
mm,
weren't sleeping or
mm,
reading a magazine. We were actually driving and looking at the road, but we do things with such ease and comfort. But then if you hit a detour or a roadblock, we had a storm the other day and trees were down. Well, a couple weeks ago, trees were down everywhere. And in trying to get where I was going, I had to take 3 different routes that I didn't know.
mm,
So now you're thinking and you're aware and you're paying attention because it's different. And those were literal roadblocks. But a lot of people will see a tree down and they'll go back, forget it, give up. And in so many areas of our life, we will do that. We will come across an obstacle, and so I think that people resist change because it's uncomfortable, even if it's good change.
Interesting. I love that. So just, they're the uncertainty of it. It sounds like really either stops them in their tracks or helps them to find a new route to overcome that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh wow, wow, that's amazing. I love the how you're a fantastic example of perseverance, going through these different things and finding a new route. Um, absolutely. Now, let's talk a little bit about attitude and what is the role of attitude in all of this? What do you feel like it is?
I learned a great lesson in attitude from a friend of mine who was terminally ill. And whenever I would visit her, she was a delight. It's not like I visited her and felt sad and morbid. It was like the sun was shining around her all the time. And she told me she was sick as a child, and she noticed when people would come and visit her in the hospital, if she was crying and clingy and in a sad place, people didn't stay long because it makes
Mm,
them uncomfortable, right? Maybe mom would stay, but it makes people uncomfortable. But she noticed when she approached everything with a better attitude because it wasn't going to change her situation. She was sick no matter what. So she could
mm,
either be upset about it or try to, look at the silver lining and the bright side and change the subject and talk about other things. She noticed people stayed.
mm.
And when we had this conversation years ago, and because I said to her one day, I said, "Mary, how do you do it? You're dying and you're behaving in such a way that like I enjoy being here. I look forward to it. We have fun, we laugh." And she told me that story and it really resonated with me and it made me do an attitude check on myself. And if you try this, you will notice that people do when you bring the sunshine, it attracts people, but the doom and gloom, they'll listen to you for a little bit. There's a little bit of sympathy, a little time, a little mourning, a little grieving, and then it's hard for people. That's why I have to turn the news off. It doesn't bring the sunshine to me. So and I think in our life, what we don't realize is how important our attitude is to either having people want to spend time with you or to actually be repelled by you. So attitude is everything. I had an accident. I was training for a marathon and oh, I was in great shape. It was just a really great summer. I trained really hard and I crashed my bike and I ended up breaking all my ribs,
Oh,
dislocated my
wow.
clavicle, punctured my lung collapsed. I was covered with road burn. I was a mess. My race was 4 weeks away. I remember laying in that hospital bed thinking, I'm running that race in 4 weeks. Okay. Well, I didn't run that race, but having that attitude of this isn't going to stop me got me to the point where I willingly accepted the fact that I was unable to run that race.
Mm,
But 4 months later, I ran a different race and it wasn't pretty either because I wasn't in perfect shape, but I was able to do it. But I did it, and it was so powerful to me to know that I could have been so upset because I had trained so hard and what terrible luck to have this biking accident and then not be able to run my race and just kind of feel no hope when you push through something like that, it makes you realize you can push through almost anything because when something happens again, you dial back and you say, well, I did it before. I got through this, and here I am today. And does it suck when you're going through it? Yes, it's terrible. However, I got through it. I did. And I went on to run many more marathons after that.
oh, that is amazing. I love that attitude is contagious. And I've experienced both of what you said, some people who aren't as positive and some people who are. And, I'd in the contagion of it, I'd rather catch the positive than the negative. But really to see people as they cling on to that positive attitude, and obviously you did at breaking through that barrier of your challenges. That is incredible. I love that. Now, as a speaker, as a mindset coach, you undoubtedly have worked with many people who have maybe dramatic challenges like you've had, but maybe not. How what are some other examples of how people have really, you know, gone through the lemons and came out with a glass of lemonade on the outside there?
So, examples of some of my clients or some things that I've
Um,
been through.
just as far as maybe other people that you've worked with or that you've encountered in your different speaking opportunities, or others who have really, and any stories have come to mind that have, as they've persevered through their own challenges.
Well, what I found, I had a gal who was very sick with cancer, and I was able to get her eating clean. So I'm not a doctor, and I don't I all I did was guide her with his protocol.
Mhm.
But what I found with her was she was also terminally ill, and she was able to really get her life in order. She got healthier, and then she lost her battle, but she was able to really kind of put some closure on some things that needed to be situated before she passed, with her
Mhm.
daughter, with her mom, just with her life and her family. So, that's kind of one, extreme case. I also work with a lot of people who want to lose weight, and that is it's pretty simple, the science of it, right?
Mhm.
That's not where people get stuck. And I've had I've had some people lose massive amounts of weight, 80 to 100 pounds. And what has happened though, it wasn't the program that I put them on. It was getting everything else in order and realizing why they were eating and what was triggering them and why they found comfort in food, and having people sort of switch their thinking, because it's really, overeating is just sort of a form of punishment, just like it would be if we were drinking to not think about something, or we were over exercising to kind of run away from our thoughts. And it's really important to just, I love to talk to people and ask questions and let them figure it out just through the questions that I ask, because they know what the answer is. But until you say it, because if you ever said anything that you wish you could take back, right? You can
Mhm.
hear those words
Mhm.
forever, years, right? You can hear those words. Same as if you say something that is helpful to you, you can hear those words. So what I really love to do is, I don't want to talk about how much water you need to drink, and when you need to eat your snacks and how many calories. Sure, I'll guide you and give you that, but that's not what it's about, because you didn't get to where you are because, usually, I mean, sure, if you have a baby, or there's a reason, but if there's a reason that you're really struggling. So I've just found that so many things, whether it's that or relationships. I wrote a chapter in my book about relationships with our animals. A lot of people will lose a dog and they don't want to get another dog because they're so sad about the dog that they lost. But once they have that other dog, it might be, 5 weeks, 5 years later, they realize what a time, what they missed out on. So I just like to move people past whatever it is, because it is past,
Mhm.
and move on into what they can control, because we can't do anything about the past.
Good point. I love that the challenge itself changes you, but it also seems to help in other aspects. The challenge is there not for the challenge itself, but maybe to help heal relationships with others, or help in other aspects of your life. Is that kind of what you're seeing?
Absolutely. And I love this example. So I was never a runner in my whole life. I started running when I was 40. And the reason I started running is because a friend of mine had been diagnosed with cancer while she was pregnant. And
Mhm.
I didn't know what to do. I wanted to support her in some way. And a lot of girls in sisterhood will shave their head just to be, link arms. I didn't want anyone to think I was sick. And I felt like it I wouldn't enjoy it, but it would be easy. I would just shave my head and then my hair would grow back. So So I thought, what could I do that would be really, really difficult? And I didn't talk about this, but I had a terrible accident when I was 34. I was cleaning a house, fell off a balcony, shattered my pelvis, broke my back, broke
Oh,
my wrist.
wow.
It was awful, and it took me a long time to walk again, and I walked with a limp, and it wasn't pretty. I recovered, but it was just a slow, arthritic body that I was living in. And when that happened, I thought, there was a race in our town every year, and I thought, if I run this race, that would be really hard. That would be comparable to what she's going through. So I decked myself out with a shirt with her name on it, and she showed up, and she was pregnant and bald and cheering me on. And what I realized is that when sometimes if we focus, I could have just sat with her and cried with her and all that. But when I went out and did that, it empowered me to empower her. And she ended up living for 3 more years, just feeling,
Wow.
egging me on to run another race. And I would run another race, and she would go through another chemo treatment. And she couldn't do those things, but when you bring that kind of energy to your world and the people around you, it does lift people up. And it changed my world. I don't walk with a limp. I'm a marathon runner, an ultra marathon runner. I hike now. I do all kinds of things, and my body is healthy and strong because I didn't live in that place. I wouldn't allow myself. Once I did one thing, like I said, now I said, oh, I could do anything. And it empowers other people because they look at me and they say, wow, if Susan Wheeler could do that, I could do that.
Oh, absolutely. I love how the challenge, kind of almost forces you to look outside yourself too. You're saying, okay, I want to get rid of this. Well, look at this other person I can help. It kind of helps you overcome selfishness and overcome, your own challenge. But when you look outside yourself, it doesn't necessarily, minimize your own situation, but it helps you to serve others and to really to see the lemonade in the lemons.
It sure does. It's distracting because when you look at that pile of lemons, what are you going to do with it? Right? And really, if you're looking at a pile of lemons, I have a friend in California, she has a lemon tree. She has so
Mm.
many lemons, she doesn't know what to do with all of them. And when I go out there, I'm like, lemon this, lemon that. And this is before the lemonade diet, just loving
Mhm.
lemons and all the things you could do with them. And I think that there's two ways of looking at it. So you have a pile of lemons, and you could look at it like it's just a pile of lemons. Like, how much lemon water can you drink? But then if you take those lemons and create something else from them, there's a lot of uses for them. And it's no longer just a pile of lemons. And
Mm.
in our life, that's what we have to do. Our problems, we could just look at them and see our problems just piling up and feeling overwhelming and insurmountable. Or we could take those problems and say, wow, how can I do good with this? And even me just running that one story from running, I've done some amazing things. I started a huge scholarship fund for our high schools because of running. I started the kids marathon in our area, which children run 1 mile a day for 26 days to complete
Wow.
a marathon. So these kids have run a marathon, but it's 1 mile at a time, and that's what we forget. I just love that analogy because these kids were able to complete such a huge feat just one day, 1 mile at a time. And if we look at our problems, our lemons, just one day, one thing at a time, one small change is what I like to say.
Mm.
We can change our whole life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even just, as a first step to just kind of think, okay, what's that one little thing I can change? And just how's that going to help?
Yeah, it's just one thing. It is overwhelming. I could have never thought I could run a marathon, and I wasn't in the shape to, but I had to do it a little at a time. And every time I had a victory, I think, okay, I could do a little more. And eventually, my longest race was 33 miles in the Grand Canyon.
Wow, that's fantastic. Oh my goodness, that is just really amazing
Very cool.
where you've come over the years and how that has shaped you. That's the kind of probably the more important thing, not necessarily what you went through, although that's definitely important, but really how that's changed you and how that's helped you to be a stronger person and be able to help and serve others. I love that. That is so amazing.
It's so true. It's the journey. We forget. We want to. We're here, and we want to be here, and you can't just get here. It's the journey.
Absolutely. Well, Susan, how can people get in contact with you?
I have a website. It is susanvwheeler.com. And that is really probably the best place. I'm also on Facebook, Susan V. Wheeler, if you'd like to follow me on Facebook, or Instagram, Susan_V. Wheeler. And there is a link to my book in all the places. You can buy my book on Amazon. I'll just hold it up because it's pretty.
Awesome. Look at that. I love that.
The juggling of the lemons, another talent. Not really, thank goodness for Photoshop, but, yeah, that's how you can reach me.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we will include all of that information in the show notes. And Susan, we are so grateful for our conversation today. Thank you for sharing your experiences and for motivating people. I hope this touches someone to some degree to be motivated to kind of overcome their lemons and fill up the glass with lemonade.
Oh, I hope so too, and you're adorable, and I look forward to getting to know you even better too, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.